guys. Oh my god. There we go. Sorry. Can everyone hear me still, by the
Gotcha.
way? Cool. Sorry. Today we'd like to welcome a very special guest. He's our American brother. His name is Rob AKA SydewayZ.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
How's
My
it going, buddy?
brother's from down under.
How's things been, man? Been a long time, actually.
Yeah, it has been a minute. It's been a while, little while. I have been extraordinarily busy. I took on like the next step in my career evolution, I guess you would say. I work in the glass industry,
Yep.
and I've gotten extraordinarily busy, and unfortunately, my Twitch career has taken a hit. You could
Yep.
say.
So
Yeah, I haven't seen you on for a
that's
while.
right.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and it sucks because it's not something I wanted. It's not what I didn't what I think the last stream I did was actually when it was the stream right after or the second stream after I became I hit affiliate, and then it was just like overnight, just lights went out, and I had to step up and do adult things that unfortunately come before, you know, doing your dream, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess you would say.
Yeah.
You
Damn
know?
adulting always gets
But
in the way.
right.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I don't know about you,
But,
about yourself.
yeah.
Like I know with me when we made affiliate, there was like a sort of a mini letdown after. Like you
Yeah.
grind so hard to get there, and then it's like a big exhale, and it's hard to keep that momentum sometimes.
Right.
So outside of the other things,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
You try so hard to get there, and then once you're there, you kind of think, okay, I've made it now. And then once you're there, you're like everything. You expect things to just keep going up, but
right.
for us, like it kind of plateaued and then just went down.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of different people that do a lot of different things. Like, if you notice, like, on my channel, like, I do the same three things, and it was because, that's what I want to do. Like, the whole reason I started Twitch, I was like, listen, if I'm going to play video games, like, I may as well just try to monetize it a little bit, because at least then you tell the old lady, like, hey, I got to go play Grand Theft Auto for 4 hours because the people need me. Sounds a lot better than, hey, I don't want to do the dishes because I want to play Grand Theft Auto. Like, which one does a woman want to hear? You know what I mean? Let's be real. So, realistically, monetizing it, that was the only real reason to monetize, was to, like, justify it to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I never haven't stopped playing video games. I play way too much Grand Theft Auto. Play a lot of Forza still. But I'm doing it for me. But at the same time, I'm doing it to where it's probably just entertaining to me. Like, I play Grand Theft Auto like I'm playing an RP style game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Instead of playing, like, run around the map, shoot everybody, and then buy a bunch of cars and sell a bunch of cars and then, run around and grind and make money or whatever. Like, I play it like RP style, but with just what the game gives you. So no PC mods, no glitches. I don't do all the dumb glitches that people love to do, like putting F1 wheels on all their cars and weird stuff. I literally am only willing to do what the game allows, right?
Yes.
So I've come to play in a fashion where, like, I start my day, I start up the game, and I'm in my house of choice, which is usually the penthouse because it's the biggest, best house you can get, and you can customize it and all this other stuff. And then from there, like, maybe go down to the casino real quick and spin the wheel, and then from there, like, start hopping businesses and collecting those daily payouts, and then, do the grind the certain businesses I want to. And then once you grind, like, sell your clubhouse stuff and then sell your bunker stuff and your nightclub stuff, then I just, like, go do fun things. I go dirt bike riding, or I go skydiving, or I go hiking sometimes on, like, the mountain and stuff. Like, taking time to appreciate all the hard work that all these developers put into such a beautiful game, being on a on a Series X, which mine is sitting right there. You can't, it's just out of frame, but and then I have a really nice, 4K gaming TV with all kinds of extra gaming stuff, and it's just what I enjoy. So I kind of feel like I wouldn't want to stream that, and I'm not really talkative the whole time. Because I don't know how long I have. You know what I mean? I don't know if I have a half hour to play or 3 hours to play half the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, I ramble about Grand Theft Auto all day long.
Well, with that said, to the viewers, we have a video worked out with SydewayZ about going through a life in the day with SydewayZ on his GTA, because it sounds very, very interesting.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there will enjoy that video. We got that coming up hopefully really soon.
Right. Which would be really, really awesome. Like, I was so stoked and so looking forward to have just a good excuse to link with my bros from down under, and then we found out, wow,
We were set up
systems don't compute, but, it's whatever. I'm a bit of I don't want to say fanatic, but I love Grand Theft Auto. I've been playing since day one. I played online since day one. I think I actually pre-ordered the game and got it like 2 days early, because I didn't go to like a GameStop. I had like a locally owned shop, and I was really good friends with the owner. So like, if my game got shipped to him 3 days before the release date, he'd just be like, "Here, just be careful online. They might ban you." I'm like, "All right, cool."
That's awesome.
Like Skate 2 came out, and I got it like 3 days early. And my friends were online like, "Yo, what?" Because that's like all I really played back then was that, and like whatever Forza was out back then, like Forza Motorsport 3 or 4 or something. I don't even remember. And they were just like, "What? This is crazy. How are you playing? Like, how is it?" I'm like, I made a friend, and then I figured, they like me, I guess. I don't know. And then here we are.
That's the old saying. It's
But,
not what you know, it's who you know.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
But, I don't know.
Well, I'll start with the first question that we like to ask our guests to start off with. What's been your greatest gaming achievement?
My greatest gaming achievement?
Yeah.
On
any game, any console.
Probably getting. I already know what it is right off the top of my head, because it took so long to do. Was getting every achievement on Forza Motorsport 3, I think.
Oh wow!
I can't remember if it was 3 or 4. Sometimes they overlap because they were very, very similar games, and it was a long time ago. For all you children who are like, "You mean Horizon 3?" Because I just no, I'm talking 15 fucking years ago. Like, we're talking early 2000s. You know what I mean? But I think I'd have to look on my Xbox thing, but one of them, I just would not stop until I got every single achievement unlocked, and I did. And so that was probably the big, just because of so much time invested and doing so many races you don't want to do it all. Like, Forza's come such a long way where you could be a drifter or a rally guy or a truck guy or a muscle car guy, and you could beat pretty much the whole game with using whatever kind of car you want. But in the old days, it was very like Gran Turismo-esque, where you would have, you have to do 5 races in a Audi R8 for the Audi R8 championship, and then you'd have to do this, and it was just like this giant grid. When you looked it up on the screen, like, you go to like you progress or whatever, and it was just hundreds of, I don't even remember how many races, but it's hundreds. I want to say it's hundreds, and you just, oh God, it took so long. It took years. Yeah. That was probably it. And then a close second would be having, in my eyes, one of the most successful Forza drift teams online. That would probably be a second, just because it was a lot of work, but in a different way. You have to like meet these people, find these people, groom them, help them tune cars, and all this is a lot of work in a lot of different ways. But that's probably, you know what, that might be the first. Yeah, the drift team, that was first. The other thing was like a me thing. I feel like it's selfish to say that. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the drift team. Yep. The D1 Underground. That was our team name, and we beat a lot of people. like a lot of people. But what it was is we got into Initial D, the anime, which is that's what that car right there is from. The good old A86. And I don't know if you know what Initial D is, but for those of you who don't know, it is a anime about a boy who is in high school and his father owns a tofu shop and he has to drive every night to the top of the mountain in town, deliver tofu to the hotel resort that's up there, come all the way back down, and then go get ready for school. And his father, who owns this tofu shop, was the best street racer in the area when he was a teenager. And he literally grooms his kid to become the next best thing without his kid even knowing it. Like, his kid doesn't know what kind of car he has. He doesn't care about cars. He doesn't like cars. He's like, oh, my dad's making me deliver tofu again. And he only got better so he could hurry up and just get home faster. Like, that was his whole mentality. He'd be like, man, I just need to get better at taking these corners and faster at taking corners and drifting corners so that I can get there quicker and, you know, maybe go to get some more sleep. And it just, but it's the reason that A86 Toyota Corolla is like the most world-renowned drift car is literally because of that damn cartoon. And at the same time, the real Drift King was also a consultant when they were making it. So there's a lot of actual driving information and technique and knowledge that you can learn just by watching it. So I watched 4 seasons of this anime and instantly was like, we're changing everything. We're not running tracks anymore. We're going to drive Fujimi Kaido, which is a 12-mile Japanese-styled mountain that's modeled after mountains in Japan. You go up to the top and back down the other side, and it's just one giant 12-mile loop of crazy corners. And we are going to drive this thing forwards, backwards, up, down, sideways, until we all on our team know this mountain inside and out, and it will make us better drivers. And it literally did. Like, we became probably, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best. I say if not the best because there's a couple teams that we never got to do anything with, like Team Blackjack. Like, any Forza OGs knows who Team Blackjack is. They are the original OG drift team. Like, they were so good that when they made the Fujimi Kaido video for Forza Motorsport 4, they used Team Blackjack. They hired them and had them make like the demo video that they released to the public of them bringing Fujimi Kaido back. Like, they were that good. And one of them is Ryan Littoral, who is a professional driver in Formula Drift now in America. He's Mr. RB26. If you're a car guy, you know what I'm talking about. But he started the whole RB26 versus 2J online debate like last year or whatever, and like it probably helped his popularity. So I can't knock him for that. But
yeah.
Anyway, long story short, yeah, Drift Team.
We got a question from one of the viewers from Bearded Viking. He said, "Did you ever play Midnight Club?"
Oh, first of all, shout out to Mr. Viking. Yes, absolutely, Midnight Club. I played every Midnight Club, every single one, as a matter of fact, because I remember going to GameStop in California when I was probably like 18, 19 at the time, and seeing the pictures, and during all the hype of Fast and Furious, like Too Fast, Too Furious wasn't out yet. I remember that. And I remember talking to the dude at GameStop, and we actually talked about making an online car club, and there was, I don't even know if there was online in Midnight Club 1 or Midnight Club 2. And then Dub Edition, I missed Dub Edition because it actually had a drift meter, so you could basically make your car more or less driftable by just moving a bar in the settings. And so you could literally make just about any car driftable, and it made it like a lot of fun. And then Midnight Club Los Angeles is actually where the D1 Underground, my drift team, actually started, was on there. We would run this like loop that was right by the beach. It kind of just looked like a short track for like just like a sprint race, I guess. So it's just like a running track. So you had 2 corners and like 2 straights. but they were elevated. So like one you go downhill and the other one you come uphill. And you know, we would battle people, but like to become 120% honest, like that game wasn't meant for drifting, so it was really, really hard to drift. Kind of like Grand Theft Auto is until like the latest updates with the low grip tires and all that. But we started there. I actually was using the Microsoft wheel on my 360 at the time, and then Forza Motorsport 3 came out, and then we just migrated over to Forza 3, and then we go back a little bit, but the online died on that game, and we all were just growing exponentially as far as tuning ability and learning more and more about driving technique, and especially using driving techniques on different like style tracks and everything else. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I loved Midnight Club. I loved it. Part of me wants them to make a new one, but then part of me doesn't, because I don't want them to take away from what they're doing with Grand Theft Auto, and I don't think they're going to be able to compete with what Forza has become, being open world, and having the full track simulator. Like, I wouldn't want to see that. It's kind of like looking at like what Saints Row, the new release, just did versus what Grand Theft Auto is now. Like, they're never going to be able to compete. Like, ever. Like, and I loved Saints Row. Saints Row was a great game. Saints Row 2 is probably, in my eyes, has some of the best cinematics they've ever put in movies. Like, they were just so raw and just edgy and amazing. Watching Johnny Tran not Johnny Tran, that's Fast and Furious, but watching Johnny react and do all the things that he did, like when his girlfriend got murdered. I was just, man. But now, no way. There is no way Saints Row it could compare to what Grand Theft Auto is now.
Yep.
There's just no way.
Yeah, they've changed the game a little, moved the goalposts with how big and good it's become.
Yeah.
What was the first game that got you into gaming? What was the first game you ever played that you thought, yeah, this is, I'm a gamer?
The first game that got me into gaming. Honestly, probably regular Super Mario Brothers on regular Nintendo was probably the first video game that I sat down and just wanted to play it nonstop. And I mean, at that point, I probably had no idea. Like, I don't think gamers were even called gamers at that point. We're talking like 1994
Yep.
or 5, I think, is when I got a Super Nintendo or a regular Nintendo. Like, I grew up super poor, so like this Nintendo 64 controller sitting behind me is sentimental to me, because I bought my first gaming console myself when I was 16, because I had my own job, and I bought a Nintendo 64, and I bought it used from a record store of all places, and that was in town. And so that's sentimental to me. That's probably what I would consider made me a gamer, was probably buying my first own console myself.
Yeah.
Not like getting a Super Nintendo at Christmas, because I never got one. Like, we got a Super Nintendo at my house when my mom's boyfriend hawked some speakers he had for his car so that he could get himself like a new pool stick, because he was super into pool. And they were like, hey, we'll give you this Nintendo and games and stuff because we don't need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember playing Super Mario 3. I probably put more hours into that than anything else. So that was probably the first real gaming game for me, because I played a lot of Super Nintendo, but not nearly as much as Super Mario Bros. 3. There's just no way. There's just no way.
It's a great game too, by the way.
Yep.
You answered the next question as well.
Oh, okay. What was the
first console?
First console. So
that always happens to us, don't worry.
So I had Super Nintendo, I had regular Nintendo, and then I got a Super Nintendo when I remember I got it at Funko Land. So that, I don't know if you guys had Funko Land in Australia, but
the
predecessor to good old GameStop.
Yep.
But I remember getting a Super Nintendo, and they were still making Super Nintendo games at the time, but it was like, I remember it was like Super Mario 3D or something was like one of the last games they ever came out with before they moved on. And so I literally got a Super Nintendo right as they're about to stop making Super Nintendo games altogether. And I think the 64 was out. I want to say the 64 was out. And then I used to go to like Funkoland and just play 64 all the time. Like, God, I got to get this. And then like I went to like my uncle's house, and like his roommate, I think, had a Super Nintendo, and I just played Super Mario 64 for like 24 hours straight. And I was just like, this is all I can do with my life now. This has to be it. And you know what I mean? Like, I think we all did that the first time we played Super Mario 64. Like, oh, we're running around and so you can throw people. Like, what is happening? You can just dive off of things and do flips. What? Like, we were losing our minds, 100%. Right? Yep. And so then obviously the next evolution had to be a 64. But like, I had gotten my own job, and then I was also doing a lot of like riding BMX, because I was like, this was probably the end of the 90s, like 98, 99 is when I got a 64. And then I had to get Super Mario 64. Like, it was no question. And I remember I had a handful of games, like, throughout my time having it. Like, I remember I remember getting Tony Hawk for it. I remember getting Excite Bike, and I was super stoked on Excite Bike because of the old Excite Bike from regular Nintendo, because I played a lot of that too. Just would pop wheelies for 10 minutes straight, because I thought that's all there was to do, make jump. I remember you could build tracks, and you could like just jump, and you couldn't do anything. You just jump, and you'd but it's still the greatest thing you'd ever done up until that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, and then I remember I've had a few other games too, and actually hold on. Here's one for your viewers. I don't just have a 64 sitting up here. I've got, let's see, we got Star Wars Racer. You can't really see it that well with the light, but you got the good old Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I got War Gods, which I don't think I ever played. Diddy Kong Racing.
Great game.
Jet Force Gemini. Nuclear Strike. All of us broke kids had this because it was the cheapest game in the world. Turok 2. That was one of the first games I did get was Turok 2, and then Body Harvest I have sitting here. Now this is just part of the collection that's within arm's reach, but it is what it is. We'll set those down there. I'm not trying to fidget with that right now. But yeah, I miss 64. The controller was so innovative, like it made no sense to ever I just want to do the D-pad and push buttons. And then look at us now. Like, you couldn't play any new games without a joystick hardly, unless you're playing it on your phone.
I love the 64
I remember
controller.
when they first
so good.
Yeah. I remember when they first started with the joystick, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this.
Right? You just look at it and you're like, how do I hold it and do this at the same time and then push buttons? This doesn't make any sense. Like, no, you hold it like this. But what about the other side? No, you grab the middle. I know it doesn't make any sense, but you see this part, you grab this part, and then you push these buttons over here, and that's all you do. You don't even worry about that whole other side unless you're playing like a fighting game.
Yeah, that's it.
And then you felt normal for fucking 10 minutes, and then you go back to this shit, and then your joystick gets all worn out, and oh god.
Yeah.
Extremely durable controllers.
I'm just trying to play with them now.
I know, right?
Oh, we're going down memory lane tonight, boys. Don't you worry.
What, trying to play like that? Oh, that'd be impossible.
I know, right?
What? Yep.
Right.
I know.
Right. Like, if you went back then and be like, hey, don't worry about this controller. Wait till you see what's coming in the future. It's going to fucking vibrate in your hands.
Yeah.
When you drop it on your lap, you're going to get a little excited. It's going to be a good time. So get used to that shit.
I mean, my first console was a Sega Master System. The controller was this big, and it had a D-pad which was one whole button, and then two other buttons, and that's it. And it was like,
yep.
if you were to hold it in adult hands, it's like tiny.
Yep.
Right. I remember. Did you ever have a Game Gear? Since you were a
Yeah,
Sega
I did.
person
I had a
for
Game
minute?
Gear. Yeah.
Did you get the colored one when
Yep.
it came out?
Yep.
Because I remember at first there was a non-color and then there was the color later.
Yep. I got the colored one. I remember I had Sonic on the Master System and the exact same game on the Game Gear, and it was so much harder on the Game Gear. Like they changed a few things. It was almost impossible. I was like, this is fucking crap. I can finish the game.
Yep.
I can't get past the second level on this stupid little thing.
Right. I had a friend of mine. His mom took me and him because he was like an only child, and I was kind of like an only child at the time. Like I was living with my aunt, and so she took us to this amusement park called Great America, which is actually in Beverly Hills Cop 3. If anyone wants to know what the hell the place looks like, but it was owned by Paramount, so there was like the Top Gun roller coaster. I remember seeing. I remember they had a 2-story carousel, which was kind of cool. But we went there for like the weekend or whatever, and I remember he brought his Game Gear, and we stayed up all fucking night under a blanket playing fucking colored Game Gear because it was the greatest shit we'd ever seen. And yeah, we stayed up all night, and we were stupid tired the next day. Like we didn't want to go on hardly any roller coaster because we'd all done it the day before anyway. You know what I mean? It was like day one, you go on like the easiest roller coasters and then work your way up. We were young. I think I was like 5th grade at the time. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
The Game Gear should have done better, really, when you think about it, because it was competing with the Game Boy at the time, and it was better when it came out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it really was. It was way better, like leaps and bounds better. I remember they had a way bigger catalog. Yeah. They were basically handing over stuff from Sega directly to their handheld for the most part. It was a huge color backlit screen. Like I remember even when the Game Boy Color came out, I don't think it was backlit nearly as good as the Game Gear was. So. Like Sega was way ahead of its time. Like with the Sega Saturn and Sega CD. Think about when Sega CD came out and you just added it to your existing console. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like how they did that, and then they did the Sega CD and then the Sega Saturn while everyone's still blowing in fucking cartridges.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They were way ahead of their time. Like, I had a Dreamcast. That was
my mate had a Dreamcast.
The second console that I bought myself was a Dreamcast. Yeah, dude. And it was, dude, that, again, another console. Remember the memory card went in your controller and had a screen, and there were certain games that you could pull it out and literally play to, like, build your character up on, like, certain, like, Final Fantasy style games and stuff like that. I didn't play any of that stuff then, so I couldn't tell you what the games were, but I bought one and I played the shit out of Crazy Taxi, and I couldn't do shit with my little thing, but I brought it around with me like I was the fucking man, because not a lot of people bought Dreamcast because it was fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Everyone's still playing 64. You can still go to Toys R Us at the time and get Super Mario 64 brand new out of the box. You know what I mean? Yeah, and then you watch Saturn or Sega do this, and now they're just making a comeback, making good games and bringing all this nostalgia back with all this Super Mario stuff, or Super Sonic the Hedgehog. Jesus, too many super.
Yeah, the Dreamcast was way ahead of its time too. Like it was, I don't know whether it was poor marketing or whatever they had going on, but my friend had one when I had a 64, and yeah, they were way out in front. They just for whatever reason,
I think they
were unpopular.
Honestly, I feel like it was a lot more expensive. I don't remember, to be honest with you, but I feel like it was more expensive than a Nintendo 64, and they didn't have nearly as many games, and they didn't have nearly as many games that you had heard of before. You know what I mean? They were making a lot of new stuff. Like, no one heard of Crazy Taxi didn't exist. Jet Set Radio had never existed before. And they were wild games that, like, people were like, yo, you can do this in a 3D world, and, like, this is crazy. The graphics are nuts. I remember my mom's boyfriend coming home from the bar and being like, yo, we're buying a Dreamcast. And I was like, why are we buying a Dreamcast? Like, we have a Super Nintendo. And he's like, because someone was just at the bar playing it on the TV, playing a football game, and I thought I was watching a real football game for like 15, 20 minutes, until I walked closer to the TV and realized it was a video game. You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, I'm sold. Now think about what I just said and imagine what that would have, what, like, in your brain, what Dreamcast graphics looked like compared to now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when it came out, boy, you thought you won the lottery. Like, that was the greatest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, no, we've been guilty of thinking that graphics on certain things are the greatest of all time, and they'll never be.
Probably one of the worst.
We talk about it often when, because we were back in PlayStation 2 when WWF SmackDown first came out. We're like, the graphics can't possibly get any better than this. It looks real.
We would sit there playing it going, nah, I can't see this getting any better than this. This is amazing.
Like, it looks so real. And then you look at it now and it's like,
dude,
wow.
I'm telling, like when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, like I remember, like that was the next like big jump for me in gaming was Grand Theft Auto 3, and I remember seeing those graphics, and it was just like, oh my god, like this is fucking crazy, like all over again. It was like it went from like Super Nintendo stuff to 64 to Dreamcast and now to PlayStation 2. And I'm just like, yo, what the... This... Crazy. And you know what? I skipped completely over PlayStation 1 because I bought a PlayStation 1 after the 64. And some Star Wars game I had came with 4 CDs. It was 4 CDs to play one Star Wars game that wasn't even very good. But man, dude, just like thinking back, like, dude, I haven't reminisced about the evolution of gaming since... for a long time.
I reckon the game that did that most to me was when PS2 first came out and Gran Turismo 3 was launched. And I was like, my fucking god! And you could see the reflections in the car's paint, and it was just so mind-blowingly good. I was like, oh
yeah.
And I've replayed it. I've got it behind me here. I've replayed it, and it's still not bad by today's standards. It's still a very replayable game.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's, you know what's funny is, like, to me, watching the evolution of Gran Turismo over the years, and mind-blowing. Just mind-blowing what they've done with that game. Like, and trust me, I am not a PlayStation guy. I have not owned a PlayStation in many years. I still own a lot of PlayStation 2 games. Like, you can see them right there. There they go. But... because they're like hard to find stuff. I'm not getting rid of those.
Yeah.
But you know, just to see what they did with those games throughout just PlayStation 2, you know, before PlayStation 3 even came out, it was just incredible. Like their whole drive was like, we want to make it look real, and they pushed that envelope year after year. And then once I got when I made the complete switch to just Xbox, like way back in the day with the 360, because before I always had both. I always had a PlayStation, I always had an Xbox, but when I got the 360, I was Xbox all the way, fuck PlayStation, don't want nothing to do with it. Like, yeah, I'd love to play the new Spider-Man games, and it'd be fun to dabble in Gran Turismo, but there's just... Xbox is where it's at. I don't care what anyone says. Like, I'm sorry if I hurt feelings. Like, I'm not sorry, but I'm kind of sorry. You know what I mean? Because if you, to be honest with you, the reason I made the big switch, because most of the games I played were on both consoles, was the car game. And the big car game is Forza versus Gran Turismo. And the difference for me, as a drifter at heart, is you got to have a clutch button. Gran Turismo didn't have a clutch button. Forza did. Guess where I'm headed? I'm going to be clutch kicking into corners, and you know what I mean? You got to. You have to maintain that. You have to maintain that. And I've broken more controllers by destroying the left bumper from clutch kicks and using the clutch on Forza than I ever have by trying to throw them at a wall out of anger or anything like that. Like, I've got 3 controllers I can pull out of a drawer right now that have blown out left bumpers from Forza. And those aren't the ones. Those are just like the nice ones, like the Halo. Here, let's see. Where's the Halo controller? No, I don't know where it is. I got a blue Forza Edition controller sitting up there, but that one's blown out too. Actually, now I think about it. And then the Halo controller blown out left bumpers. I've replaced them, and they break in a spot. You can't just replace the trigger itself anymore, and it's a whole mess. But yeah, dude, that was what made me switch. But watching what I think that game is what inspired Forza, to be 100% honest, is they saw what they're like, look, you gotta have that racing simulator that is pushing the boundary with graphics and pushing all of our internal console companies development team with graphics is the racing games. Like with Forza, when they went from the Forza Motorsport 4 and they were going to transition into the new Xbox, their big push was to try to make daylight as realistic as possible, to the point where if you were to look at the sun, you would squint because it was so fucking bright. Yeah. And that was what they went for. And then after they accomplished that, they were like, hey, how do we make the day and night thing work? And how do we make weather work? Because they could make it work individually, but they couldn't make it work like all together like they do now with Forza Horizon, where you're driving in day and night and rain and monsoons and all that stuff. And they were limited by the console itself and the disc that they were allowed to use on or space they were allowed to use on the disc. And so when they got into the Xbox One, then it was just like game over. We're throwing everything we got at it. We got the lighting figured out. We've got the ray tracing figured out. We got everything figured out. And now we're just going to just add to what we have, add more cars, add more gameplay styles and all this stuff. And that's what really elevated them, where Gran Turismo was still doing a lot of really cool stuff. But, like, every trailer you saw kind of just looked like the last game. Yeah. Like, they never branched out. When Forza made the split for Motorsport and Horizon, they blew the game apart. And realistically, the real reason they did that was because the guys who made, what's the name of that game? Grid. The company that made Grid, a bunch of people left and made their own company. And then they went to Forza and were like, hey, all this technology you're trying to figure out with daylight and weather, we already figured that out and we could help you guys. So why don't you just like let us show you what we can do? And they're like, all right, cool. Tell you what, we've been kind of throwing around this idea of making a car game that's just kind of based on the street. So why don't you take that and build off that with the current game engine we have, add this new stuff you think you can do and show us what you got. And that's why when Forza Horizon came out on the 360, you couldn't tune your cars like you could on the on Motorsport. It didn't have all the cars like Motorsport because the disk space wouldn't allow it if they wanted to add all this lighting and weather features. So that's why all that really important simulator stuff was left out of the first game. But then once they got into the next gen, they could add car tuning. They could add all the cars that they have in Motorsport and then some, and move the game history around, I guess you would say, where you'll, like on one Horizon game, you'll have a car that's just like a normal car, but then in the next Horizon game, it's like a secret car, but it's the exact same car that was in the last game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but that's how they were able to evolve with this other company. And then when they did that, Gran Turismo who? Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the gaming subject, we obviously met through GTA. That's how we stumbled across SydewayZ. How long have you been playing GTA? And are you looking forward to GTA 6?
Oh boy, you just opened a big can of worms with the second half. So first of all, I've been playing Grand Theft Auto games since Grand Theft Auto 3, which I mentioned earlier. I remember I was at we have this thing in America, like not a lot of people even know about. It's called Job Corps, which is ran by the federal government. It's like a trade school, but it's ran by the government, and you can actually live there, like on a campus, almost like a college, but it's like a trade school college where they have like carpentry and cement masonry and all these things. And I was going to this at the time.
Sounds alright.
And one of the guys had a PlayStation 2, and he bought Grand Theft Auto 3 like right when it came out. Bro, we put so many hours in trying to fly that fucking dodo with no wings and run around with dudes, bro. Like, dude,
Yeah.
Driving the Uber Mach BMW knockoff, which we still have Uber Mach today. Thank you so much, Rockstar. But yeah, then so that game, Grand Theft Auto 3, pushed me to buy a PlayStation 2. That was the thing. I had to get a PlayStation 2. At the time, I didn't even have I had a console that you guys have probably never even heard of, Neo Geo Pocket. So it was like a Game Gear but smaller, and you only could play Neo Geo games. That was all I had at the time. And I had a Game Boy Advance. I remember that because I was playing Pokemon on it. I remember that. So I buy a PlayStation 2, then Vice City comes out, and I buy the game, and I buy the book to go with it, so you can do all the collectibles and everything else. And then that made me buy an Xbox because Grand Theft Auto Vice City came out on Xbox, and you could listen to your own music if you had to download it to the hard drive.
Yep.
So I bought 2 systems for... Oh, no. So... Wait a minute. Was Grand Theft Auto 3 on PlayStation 1? Or was it PlayStation 2? I can't remember. Because I don't have that. I still have PlayStation...
PS2.
I remember Vice City was PlayStation 2 because I remember buying...
I'm pretty sure GTA 3 was too.
PlayStation. It was what?
That was PS2 as well. Grand Theft Auto 3.
It was PS2. Okay. So I remember, I think something... Because I had moved 2 states away... But I remember buying another PlayStation 2 so I could play Vice City, and then I bought an Xbox so I could play Vice City and listen to my own music. And then I sold my PS2, and now I'm up in Washington State, and San Andreas comes out. And I didn't even know it was coming out. Like, I think I had stopped getting Game Informer magazine for a while, and because I do like this with gaming, right? Like, you get into it heavy for a minute, and then you kind of, like, go mountain biking or something in real life for a while.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, life happens, and you move on. But, so, for whatever reason, I had the Xbox, I sold the PS2, and then San Andreas comes out, and I didn't know it was even coming out. One of the homies is like, "Hey, bro, you gotta play this new Grand Theft Auto game." I'm like, "Yo, there's a new Grand Theft Auto game. Let me see." You may as well take in that shit, put it in a needle, and put it right here into my fucking main vein, because you could not get me off that game.
Yeah.
Like, I called in sick from work to play that game for multiple days. Like, I'm not kidding, bro. Like, I put so many hours into Grand Theft. Like, that was my favorite game of all time until Grand Theft Auto Online became what it is now. Because I would just get stoned and get lost in that game for hours. Like, just driving around. Like, I started doing it to where I would play the game and I would, like, not try to drive fast to things you didn't have to drive fast to. Like, when you're with the hippie guy and you go to San Francisco for the first time, I literally remember the first time I did that, I was sitting in my living room, and once that cinematic started, I just fucking sparked up a joint and fucking leaned back and was like, I'm going to enjoy every fucking second of this. I'm not rushing to San Francisco. I'm driving the fucking speed limit and going the speed of traffic. And it was like a milestone in life for me, damn near. Like, as sad as that probably sounds, like, that was a moment, you know what I mean? And because I was born in the Bay Area, so San Francisco's got a special place in my heart, and that's what San Fierro is supposed to be. So it was just like going over the bridge into oh man. Why do you gotta take me down memory lane? Like, I know I said that shit, but you guys are the ones making me do it. Like, fucking terrible.
It's good. It's good.
That must be so cool, like, in the Grand Theft Auto games.
Oh, that would be awesome.
If you've lived in that place or you've seen that place and then having it all based on it and driving down the streets, looking at shit that you've seen, like, where you've grown up, like, that'll obviously never happen for us.
Drive over the Birkenhead Bridge.
Imagine Grand Theft Auto Port Adelaide. No worries.
That'd be actually really cool.
It would be really cool.
Back in the day.
I mean,
just before
I did a little bit of it when playing San Andreas, right? I mean, it was way off scale, but because I knew the city well, like games like Driver San Francisco, I did the same thing. Try to see if, like, oh shit, okay, I know if you go down here 3 blocks and make a left, like, am I gonna end up at the pizza place I like to go to? And no, it's not. It's fucking digital photos bullshit on storefronts. You know what I mean? But still you try to, but like, oh, I'm just going to take Embarcadero all the way around and we'll take the whole waterfront. And fun fact, in San Andreas, it's like it takes you 5 seconds.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just not to scale, which takes away the fun.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're not that far away from that. Something being like, I mean, think about like Flight Simulator and what they've done. Like they have the entire world, thanks Google Maps. You know what I mean? Like it's possible, right? But it is. When are we going to have the technology where we have the memory and we have the technology where you could go from outer space and you could zoom all the way into street level and see NPCs moving around, and then jump to like Japan from San Francisco in a second, and then same thing, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, because like Street View on Google right now, you can see a picture of the street. Now imagine at some point, like governments can probably just zoom in and see the actual street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, hey, bro, I see your car. Make a left and then 2 rights up. Watch out for the crackhead on the corner. And then be there. You know what I mean? They're doing that shit now while we're still got the technology we have. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the same. But anyway, you know what I'm saying.
You would think it would only be a memory issue, like for creating that kind of thing. I mean, you've got Google Earth, you've got Google Street View. I mean, you can get that directly to your phone. Like, why would they have any issue mapping that out in a game?
Exactly, yeah.
Except for it being a humongous memory issue, that's all.
Humongous.
I feel like the Crew, the racing game, the Crew, and like the Crew 2, I think is the newest one out or something. I don't play them personally, but I know that's kind of where they're headed. They're headed to literally how they want you to try. Like, I feel like there's going to be like the actual gumball rally in a racing game where how fast can you literally drive that Ferrari across the country? Can you and your buddy really do it 22 hours straight? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's where it's headed at some point. But I think gaming in general is going to branch in so many more different directions than it already has, that like you'll kind of be able to do whatever you want at some point. Like the Ready Player One thing isn't that far away. Like Zuckerberg already has that. He's trying to get there, and he's trying to get there in the next, like, by the end of this decade. You know what I mean? Like he wants to be there, and I think if anyone's going to do it, it's him. They already have the Google glasses, and they have a deal with Ray-Ban. So Ray-Ban's the one making them now, and they're actually like nice and stylish, and they have safety protocols. So like a red light is on it if someone's recording, so people can't use it to secret record. And you know, what if you put a piece of tape over it? Well, I can't really do that. You know what I mean? Like it'll do something else funky. So like we're headed there, but I don't know how long until we get there. You know what I mean? Like that's the key. Like, I think some people are a little farther ahead than others, but, you know, like, what was it, last year Zuckerberg said that they're working on a VR version of San Andreas? Like, when are they, like, how far away are they from Grand Theft Auto Online?
That's nuts.
They can't be that far off if they already got San Andreas.
How cool would that be?
God.
Fucking, I'm going to have to get disability checks because I'm not going to... It'll be the precursor. Like our grandkids will be the Ready Player One people, and we'll be like, I remember back in my day, VR first came out, and I had the Grand Theft Auto Online. God, everyone were a bunch of assholes. They were just running around with car beats. And what are you talking about, Grandpa? That's gonna be us, dude. That's gonna be us.
I know, right? Well, we won't even be sitting with them talking though. It'll be virtual. We'll be sitting in the back room, but we'll actually be out on the porch. It'll be like surrogates.
That's what the whole Facebook thing is. Like the new metaverse. That's what this whole thing. The new version of their VR headset. You and me and all 3 of us, we could put these headsets on, and I could see all of you as if we were all standing in the same room for the most part. And the whole idea is, it's when you're looking at your phone, or like we are communicating right now through a screen, we don't feel true presence with each other, right?
Yeah.
So you're sitting there and you see me and I see all you guys, and it's just, but it doesn't feel like if you were standing here.
Yeah.
You know, I could look up or look down or whatever. You know, I don't know how tall you are. You're probably taller than me. I'm a short fuck. But
I'm 7'5". No.
I'm 7'5".
I'm 9'5". Oh
Yeah,
shit! I got them around the wrong way. Hold on.
I'm not even 6 foot. I just imagine that you guys just eat kangaroo meat and Vegemite and just bulk up nonstop, drinking hella beer.
Pretty
and
much what we
grow
do every
That's
day.
exactly how it works.
almost like like my grandpa was 8'2". Like, what the fuck you mean? You gotta breed us to fight kangaroos bare knuckle. Like, what the fuck you mean? You might take out the trash and get mauled.
That's
one
right.
day.
And we
Like,
use
you can't be a soft motherfucker and live in Australia, boy. Was it like fucking 7 of the goddamn deadliest animals on the planet are in Australia? Something like that?
I think so.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Just around my
Yeah.
house.
I live as far away from Florida as I could possibly live and be within the main part of the United States, and I'm still fucking scared. Like, they got dinosaurs down there, bro. Like, alligators. Now they just found Nile crocodiles in the Everglades,
Yeah.
and they haven't determined yet if they've created a actual population yet. They found a few of them, and they're like, oh shit, because Nile crocodiles is no joke. We already had Burmese pythons infest in there, and then we probably got other big pythons that people let loose or got lost during Katrina or whatever. But it's wow.
You dudes get like bears and shit though.
Oh yeah, we got, like, where I live, we have what's indigenous to my general area would be like brown bears and black bears. Do we have brown bears and black bears?
I don't know if we have brown bears. We have black bears.
We have black bears
cougars.
and we have cougars, which are like mountains. Yeah, we got bobcats and we got like various, you know,
Moose
we got like
are
bald
dangerous.
eagle. Well, moose are way up north though. Like, we don't have I don't have to worry about running into a moose when I go to take out the garbage, but a bobcat's a real fucking concern. You know what I mean? They don't fuck around. Like, I'd rather run into a mountain lion than a bobcat.
All our
that.
deadly stuff is like you can't see it. Like, they hide in the bushes and
Yeah, that's the biggest
Can you
problem.
imagine walking out and being greeted by a fucking bear. Yeah, I'm just going through your trash.
And that's a reality.
Yeah,
like, there's literally bear sightings in my neighborhood constantly because I do live in like a wooded rural area. Like, I live in a small lake community, which is mostly consisted of vacation homes, but I rent one like year round. So I live like, I could throw a rock and probably hit the lake from my house, which isn't a brag because I don't live in a very big place. I live in a kind of small spot. That's why this is all you get. You know what I mean? This is all the world gets to know of me. But anyway, so in this community, we're in a very wooded, like, mountainy type area, but we're also very close to Puget Sound. Like, I have a state park that's less than 5 minutes from me with beachfront on Puget Sound, and you can go down there and see gooey duck, which is only indigenous to this part of Puget Sound, which is a big, like, razor clam, basically. I don't know, for those of you who don't know, because not a lot of people know what a gooey duck is. But, like, that's it. There's not a lot of poisonous shit here. I might walk out to my garbage and run into a deer, a mountain lion, bobcat, or a black bear.
Raccoons.
Yep.
Oh, raccoons. We have raccoons everywhere. They're cute and mischievous. But yeah, that's. But you guys, you guys have crocodiles. You guys have how many different poisonous snakes? And you have constrictors also, right?
we got a few.
Yeah,
there's a couple there. The brown snake is always slipping around our area.
Like, I want to know a time where you were doing I'm going to take out the garbage, and you ran into something that, like, was deadly. Did that ever happen to either of you growing up? Like, I had to.
Oh, yeah.
You open up the bin.
You get spiders and shit all the time.
Deadly spider there.
They just come into the...
You guys
I'm in the country, so we have a lot of brown snakes around.
Yeah.
Just walk outside. Oh, there's one there.
Yeah,
right, and they're super venomous.
They're probably top 3 in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like as a apparently spoiled, rotten American. Um, it just seems terrifying to live in Australia. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to go to Sydney, Australia so bad, and I couldn't tell you why that was. There was something, maybe it was the Olympics or something. Maybe I was just like, oh my God, I gotta go surfing there, and I want to go to the beaches and blah, blah, blah. And that was like where I wanted to go. When anyone asked, hey, if you could go anywhere in the world right now, where would you go? I go, Sydney, Australia. Like, for the longest time. And then, like, Cool Runnings came out. I was like, I want to go to Jamaica. You know what I mean? It's just how it went. You know what I mean? And so, sorry, that was funny. But, you know, for a long time, that's where it was. And then I got older, and then you learn more and more about Australia. Because there's so much that a lot of Americans probably usually didn't know back then. Like, you saw what you saw in, like, Crocodile Dundee and the Olympics, and you're just like, wow, it's amazing. Look at the Outback. And then fucking Super Outback comes out. And then Outback Steakhouse, and they just, like, you know, feeding off of the popularity of Australia shit. You know what I mean? And I remember they were playing tons of Australian-themed commercials in America for a while when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And Australia would seem like the coolest place on planet Earth. And then you hear about the Great Whites.
I was going to say, it's the ocean here that'll get you.
I like, just hang out all around fucking Australia. And then you start hearing about all the 7 of the 10 deadliest, most venomous snakes are found in Australia. And they have fucking crocodiles. And they have fucking kangaroos that want to box you in the street with fucking talons. And it's like, here's a question I thought of that I have to ask you guys also, is do you guys have, like, normal deer, or are, like, kangaroos, like, your deer?
I'd say kangaroos are our deer.
Yeah,
see, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to like come out and say that. I feel that's like cultural.
Yeah, no, I don't think we don't have any deer that's native to Australia, do we? No, I wouldn't have thought so.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we do.
No, like
my area.
Really? Like because we have like different types of deer, and then we have like elk, and then you get moose and all this other shit as you move farther north, right? So.
Oh, we do have deer.
You do have deer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, well, there you go.
Not native.
Not native. There we go. We've got imported deer.
Well, a lot of Australia is not native.
Yeah.
You see what I did there?
We also got white Europeans.
Hey, we're not native to this shit either. We decimated our fucking our fucking average.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
On our way.
Like, and it's not funny. It's fucking super sad.
No.
But
white Europeans have been very bad to a lot of
places.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you write down and you put down on paper like what European culture was, like, it just makes me want to be disgusted with myself and my ancestors. You know what I mean? Like, just like but humans have come a long way in the last 200 years to we're not just beasts anymore that have a fluent language. You know what I mean?
No, I'm with you.
Like, we aren't those people. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I agree.
Like, nowadays, think about this. I'm in America, in the Pacific Northwest, and I come from a car and skating background, and I like my collectibles, and I like gaming, and you guys are just the two coolest Australian dudes I've ever met in my life. And we somehow connected over video games, and here we are now, just having this conversation, having a good time. It's amazing. This is the world has come so far.
It really has.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Quick fire question. You're a car man. What's your favorite car?
My favorite car? I can't give you one favorite car. There's just no way. I could probably give you favorite manufacturer, which would be Nissan. Datsun, Nissan, Infiniti, like the whole Nissan umbrella, like everything they've done, the Skylines, the S chassis. Like I've never owned a Skyline, but I've owned many S chassis. Everything from a S12 to a 13, 13.4. Never had a 14. Never had a 15. So it's just S13s and one S12.
I have owned an R33 Skyline.
I hate your guts.
And I also owned a S13 Sylvia.
Ooh.
And a
big fan.
I don't know if it's badged the same in America, but a 180 SX here, which may be a 240 SX for you guys.
Yeah, 240. Yeah, so like you guys have the 180 SX, and then you have the this what is the Sylvia the where it's like a Sylvia, but it has pop up like the 180
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
setup.
So I had one of
Right.
each. I had one of the original Sylvia, and then I had a
Right.
180 as well.
Right. So in America, we had basically the Sylvia with the pop-up headlights was a 240 SX coupe, and then we had the 240S hatch, which was the 180 SX. But the motor options were KAs instead of the SRs.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys had to import SRs, and that's kind of what sparked drifting in America was the SRs.
Yeah. So I had one of it. So the Sylvia I had was a CA18, and the 180
So
180 yeah, the 180 was an SR20.
So you had an 89 with the CA?
Yeah, it was an 89. Yeah.
Yeah, 89. Yeah, so yeah, the CA is a cool little motor. The CA is just an RB with 2 less cylinders. Really, is all it is, with smaller pistons. But I mean,
yeah, and that was a naturally aspirated. That was like one of my first cars. So that was but the 180 was a SR20 turbo, which went hard. It was good.
So wait, was your CA real quick? Your CA was a dual cam non-turbo?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because I know a lot of guys. I know they're good with the turbo setups. I think the Sylvia K's came with those in '89.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then they went to the SR after that. But the my first 240, because my first Nissan was a 300ZX. I had an 84, so it was like first year. So it was like real basic everything, but it was manual and it wasn't a turbo car. But I was determined to turn it into a drift car because I lived down the street from a bunch of dudes that had 6 240s and one 886, and this was like when nobody had them. No one had SR swaps yet. And I was like, I'm buying this 300 and I'm going to turn it into a drift car. So I did everything you could do to an NA manual 300ZX to make it slide, and then I sold it. And then the next car I bought was my first S13, which was a 2-tone coupe with a blown-up SR. The kid got a hole in the oil pan and it ended up blowing a rod because he had it slammed on its nuts. And it sat behind this car dealership for 6 months, right? And I knew that the kids that I lived down the street from that were friends with the dude that owned this car, and this was years after I moved away from where these dudes lived. But I saw the car and I was like, dude, I need to get that car. So anyway, I got the backstory from the homies. They told me, oh yeah, dude was driving, and slamming on its nuts, and he fucking put a hole in the oil pan. He drove it. His uncle owns this car dealership, and so his uncle just towed it there, and it's just been sitting ever since. So I went and I asked if I could check out this car, and he's like, yeah, it was my nephew's. It's not for sale. So I just go look at it. And I was like, dude, if he ever wants to sell this, he's like, he wouldn't sell this right now. I was like, nah. He's like, $6,000 right now. And he's like, nah. I was like, I didn't have $6,000, but I just threw a number out. And he's like, nah, he wouldn't take it, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, all right. So I looked at it. It had a bolt-in cage. It had a nice steering wheel. It had K-Sport coilovers. It had Brady blow-off valve. It had HKS intercooler. It had coil rad radiator. It had almost $5,000 worth of parts at the time. And I was like, all right, yeah, whatever. If he wants to sell it, let me know. So 6 months later rolls around, and I was supposed to buy a Mark III Supra. So an 80s Supra, where that kind of looked like the 180 body style, you know what I mean? They came with 1Js. Probably for you guys, probably got 1Js. And then we only got 7Ms, which were fucking horrible engines. But anyway, I was supposed to buy one that was really nice one, but the guy was like, hey, I got some super guy that's supposed to come buy it. And if he doesn't buy it, then I'll sell it to you. And I all day long, I'm at work just waiting to hear back from this guy. And then at the end of the day, he calls me. He's like, hey man, sorry, the guy bought it. Fuck. Heartbroken. And then that night, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go look at that 240 again because it's still sitting there. So then that night, I went back to that dealership 6 months later. The car's still sitting in the same spot behind the shop. And I asked the guy, I was like, hey, would you be willing to sell that car back there? He's like, you know what? Let me make a phone call. He calls him up, and I go over and I look at the car, and it's like all the same, just been sitting for 6 months, so it's like dusty and shit. And the guy comes back, he's like, how much you want to pay for it? And he's an old car dog, so he just threw some car jargon at me and shit. And I was like, look, dude, I was like, tell him I'll give him $1,000. Like, it's got a clearly has a blown motor, huge oil slick under it, blah, blah, blah. Because all the oil over time, the residual just ended up leaking out under it, so it was obvious it was blown. And he's all, makes a phone call, calls me back, comes back out, and he's just like, hey, we'll do 1,500. And I was like, I'll do 1,100. Calls me back, all right, I'll do 1,100. So I bought it for $1,100 with a blown SR and like $5,000 worth of parts.
That's gold.
So this was back in the day when there was forums online, but there was no Facebook Marketplace. There was no OfferUp, and Craigslist was a thing, but like not a lot of people mess with it. And then, I'm sorry if I'm rambling about this story. Like, just you can cut me off. But there was none of that shit. Like, I didn't even have Facebook at the time. I never had a MySpace. So it was like, everyone was telling me, like, look, dude, you got to go on Facebook, and you got to go to find these car groups on Facebook, because they were just starting to become a thing. And I was like, all right. So I went on there, and I started Facebook. I was anti-Facebook. I didn't want a Facebook. And I started Facebook just so I could try to find a motor, another SR to put in here, because it already had a blown one, which meant I could just pull the long block and put a whole SR long block in it, and then I got a dope SR drift car, essentially, for however much I have to put into it plus $1,100. So I ended up finding a dude who sold me an SR, a blacktop SR, long block with the ECU and the harness, and an Apexi Neo, and a top mount turbo, just a T28 off of like an RB. Which was a nice little upgrade setup at the time. Like, that was kind of like the go-to upgrade, was go to T28 back then. And so I got all that, dropped it in, did my first motor swap by myself with like no experience. Like, literally, like, was trying to like message the few people I talked to, like, hey, what do I do about this and what do I do about that? And, like, one dude came over to my house, like a neighbor, and he's like, look, when you unplug the wiring harness, put a piece of tape on one part, put one on the other, and go 1-1, and the next one go 2-2. By the time that weekend ended, like, I didn't need to do any of that. I had pulled the SR harness out like 3 times, because when I got it all together, the car wouldn't start, and I couldn't figure out why. And I had 2 harnesses, because I had the blown motor harness and I had the new harness, so I was like, well, one wouldn't let the fuel pump kick on. So that told me that the one that came in the car had been modified specifically for the car. So I had to use that one. Yeah. And what it turned out to be, the reason the car wouldn't start, and I had a dude that I met, shout out Steve Rankins. He came over, he didn't know who I was, but I talked to him because I heard he might know where to get an SR when I was hunting for the motor. And he was a super nice guy. But he ended up coming to my house, and he just like looked around it, and he put some starter fluid in it real quick, and it started, or tried to really start. And I was like, oh shit, and like panicked and like turned it off. And he's like, no, do it. He's like, hang on. He's like, you got a voltmeter? And I was like, no. He's like, hang on a second. Goes, gets a voltmeter, checks my battery. And I was like, oh, you don't need to do that. The battery's brand new. I just bought it like a week ago. And he's like, he checks, it had like 5 volts. I was like, dude, this motor needs 12 volts minimum to start, like, right now. Like, you can't do this. And so we jump it, and it literally turned the key, just and fucking was perfect. Purred like a kitten. And I was just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I just did my first motor swap mostly by myself. Like, the dude came over and told me, like, hey, do this, but didn't help me do it. And then another dude came over to help me mate the transmission to the new block to put back in the car. And that was it. Like, I did everything else. I figured out everything else, like, with YouTube and just pure will.
Good old YouTube.
That can turn anyone into a fucking professional, YouTube.
Oh, I've been an
Oh,
electrician,
Yeah.
plumber.
Absolutely. Yeah. Builder.
Yeah.
I'll build a
But
house on
that
YouTube. Don't worry.
weekend, I learned a very valuable lesson. Sorry, guys. I learned a very valuable lesson that weekend, and that is drain your transmission fluid before you pull it. Because if you don't, you're going to spill hydraulic fluid, smelling roasted, nasty shit all over the floor, and then lay under it. Like, I ruined, like, 3 hoodies that weekend laying in transmission fluid.
Jeez.
Like, that smell does not come out. It just, no matter how hard you try, it just doesn't.
You just wear it. Wear it as a new scent, ode to transmission.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of our
God.
Greaseball series.
So I got a question that I'm dying to ask. Do you guys, or do you guys not enjoy Vegemite from time to time?
Love it.
Yes.
You
You
like
don't
Vegemite?
eat it out of the jar like some people think we
Wait,
do.
what? Did you say you'll eat it out of the jar?
No, I said we don't eat it out of the jar.
No.
Like
Okay,
some people
so
think we do.
I
no,
would
what
though.
I've heard is put a very thin layer on toast, and it's really good. It just
You
when
put butter
open
on first.
the can and you smell it, it smells like
Yeah.
6 dead elephants took a shit in a
I'll
dumpster. and
I'll
it
tell
sat
you.
in
I'll tell you the
sun.
best way of having it. All right. Have some get a slice of toast, piece of toast, and put a nice amount of butter on the toast first.
Yep.
Right.
Nice thick amount, and then get a thin amount of Vegemite and put it over the toast,
Okay.
and then eat it like that. When everything's melted in, it's fucking beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay.
It'll change the way you think about Vegemite.
Yeah. Your bread
Okay,
needs to be
so
well
now-
You
lubricated.
always have more butter than Vegemite.
Okay. Now that being said, every single American I've ever known that's tried Vegemite that exact way, or as close to that as they could recollect when they told me their story, all said it was the worst thing
Okay,
they
so
ever put in their
also
mouth.
everyone hates it the first
Yeah.
time. Everyone.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
my
Then why do it a second time?
because there's crack in it. Didn't you know that? It's it's chock full of crack. It's addictive.
Right.
It's definitely, it is like, I know a lot of Australians that absolutely hate it. They won't touch it. So it's
Right.
definitely, and it's an acquired taste, really.
Right. What is it even made out of? Like, I don't even know what it's made
Yeast
out of.
extract.
Yeast extract. From, like what? Like the bread making process? Or
I
are we
don't
talking, like,
know. From
biological?
It's definitely one of those ones you
From
don't
the-
read into.
from
You
the
don't-
corner.
like, you don't read the ingredients. Like I did with deviled ham spread. I used to love that. And then I read the ingredients and I've never eaten it since.
Is you-
No, I'll like the lowest grade weird meat thing I'll eat is probably like a good, well-made bratwurst from a market that I frequent for meat.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that. That's about where I draw the line. Like I don't really eat hot dogs. Like I will, like if I'm out camping or something, but I'll do it. But
Yeah.
like any canned meat, like nah, bro.
No spam?
You can keep it. Like I
Spam.
remember my dad loved deviled ham when I was a kid, and I thought it was disgusting. Like sardines, no,
Mhm.
thank you.
Oh.
The Ninja Turtles ruined that for me. Never, no thanks. Yeah, anything that comes in a can and is was an animal at one point, you can keep it. I don't want it. No thanks.
Here's a good question from Boss. Any American foods you recommend we try?
Any American foods? So here's the thing: the best foods in America aren't American foods. It's like Mexican food and Japanese food and Italian
Pizza.
food, and it's like, what's American? A fucking hamburger? Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like mashed potatoes and gravy? Like, fucking, like, I don't even know. Like, honestly, fried chicken, like, but Korean fried chicken is arguably better than American. Like, Southern, like, if you put the best Southern, like, American, I'm saying Southern style fried chicken up against any Asian fried chicken, they're probably gonna lose. Like, I really hate to say that. As a man who has a literal scar on him from Southern style American fried chicken cooked by the people you would want to cook it when you ate it. You know what I mean? Like, if there's only one time you could ever get it, that's that lady right there. That's the lady that, like, it's a scar from her batch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking KFC. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that up against like Korean fried chicken, like fucking forget about it. You go to a really good Korean restaurant that can make a really good Korean fried chicken, forget
I'm trying
it.
to think of the things
That being said,
in my head that are like stereotypically American, like that we've
okay.
like pumpkin pie. It's something that always comes to my mind from movies and shit. It's like pumpkin
Yeah,
pie.
okay, but you know, I feel like we stole that pumpkin shit. Like I don't know where pumpkins are indigenous from. Do they have them in Europe or are they indigenous to America? Like
I don't know, probably.
you know what I mean?
Uh,
I feel like that's a
Yeah,
Caucasian
well, I think
thing. I don't think
Americans
that's...
and Australians are fairly similar in that way. We've stolen everything, essentially, especially the white
Yeah,
Americans and white Australians. I mean, we all come from the same fucking place, essentially.
Yeah.
We've all done the same things. We just nicked shit from everywhere else.
Right. Yeah, I mean, best American food. Like, the best that I would say is I would say Mexican food. Or any Southern American food for that matter. Whether it's El Salvadorian or you just want a good taco, like a good, like authentic carnitas taco or a El Pastor tacos. Those are my favorite. Which is, it's actually came from that shit. That shit came over from Europe. It came from Greece. They stole the style from the Greeks coming over to South America, and they put pineapple on top and roast it on a spit, Greek style. But yeah, I'd say Mexican food. Fuck that. Carne asada super burrito. Get you one of those at Chipotle.
I love me a burrito.
I don't know.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's probably the best American food because it's real America from not, from the indigenous people of America. And it's fucking delicious. So there you go.
Easy.
That's good. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to call it at the moment because I gotta go, which is shit. Because I've been really enjoying this. It's fucking.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I wish we had more time to
I
do
reckon
this.
we're going to rename this Part 1.
I think we're gonna have to do this again.
All right, I'm down.
Real soon, and then make more time for it because this has been really
I
interesting.
think we're just scratching the surface. I like this.
Yeah, I like this. Yeah,
bro, I got.
We still got heaps of questions to ask as well. So.
I got questions that I want to ask you guys, and then like as Australians and adults in Australia with children and everything else, and then I have questions for like, just like cultural differences, like like what do you call a fucking quarter pounder with cheese at your McDonald's versus ours? Is it the same or is it
Royale with cheese.
You know what I'm saying? Like I want to know,
motherfucker. The Royale with cheese.
All right, mate. It's been great having you on. We're definitely going to be doing a part 2 to this.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, guys, shout out to you both, honestly, and shout out to all your fucking followers and all your fans, because like you guys have, I don't know how, just somehow like me. you know,
good bloke.
Well, we like good blokes. That's where we're at.
But I was super humbled to get the invite. Super happy that you guys allowed me to do this and just run my fucking mouth too much. Because
I love it, man.
I'm too fucking good at it.
I love it. You're the kind of guest we like to have. It's
well,
when we can ask a question and sit back and you just answer perfectly.
Beautiful.
It's really good.
Absolutely.
Hey, no problem.
Yep.
I can do this all day.
24-hour stream coming up.
Real quick, is this going to be able to, like, is this going to playback be available? Or all
it'll be available.
Yep. We'll have it up on the YouTube channel as well.
We'll have it up on YouTube as well.
Hell yeah. There you go. Shout out the YouTube channel.
Beta Mafia Pods, YouTube.
Beta
Get on it.
Yes.
Like, subscribe.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. If you guys aren't liking and subscribing by now, like, you guys are sleeping. Like, go follow your boys. Support these guys. Jesus Christ.
Follow SydewayZ as well. All right, mate.
Easy.
We'll have to end it there. And yes, we'll be adding to this story in the next installment.
Part 2 coming soon.
Absolutely.
Part 2 coming soon, yes.
I'll be more prepared and on time this time because apparently
We'll
now
work our times out
really
better.
Apparently, we're in a whole different time zone. It's weird.
Yeah, I know. Who
I
would have
know,
thought?
Nah, all good. Peace out, everyone.
Thanks for everyone jumping on and hanging out in the chat. It's good to see
Hey,
everyone there.
thanks. Shout out to all the fans that ask questions and you
Yeah.
know, drop any more down in the comments below and let us know. Like I want to ask questions from fans to you guys too. Like I'll ask these guys. Just let me know.
Done.
Yep.
All
right, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Been good.
Later.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
You too, pal.
Catch you
See you,
later.
mate.